Welcome to Mind Your Autistic Brain. I have an incredible guest. I have been so excited. This has just been like, I have been giddy leading up to this. I have Shalese Heard from the Autistic Travel Goddess with us today. She is going to be giving us tips and insights for traveling as an autistic person, ways that we can help mitigate some of that traveling overwhelm, because as we move into the holidays, that is some of the biggest challenges that I know I have faced. Hi, I'm Carole Jean, founder and host of Mind Your Autistic Brain, and you're about to experience the new way to thrive in life and relationships as a late identified autistic by unveiling who you are, what you love, finding your balance, and being the leader and creator of your best life. Get ready, because this is where we go against the mainstream, say no to outdated society norms, and we say yes to who we are in order to create a joy-filled, balanced, and more neurodistinct world. Welcome to Mind Your Autistic Brain. Shalese, oh my gosh, is this always like the thing that you have started to tackle, and you've got some great solutions, I know.
Right.
Well, I am so excited you are here. She is truly a goddess. I mean, guys, she is amazing. I cannot wait to dive into this. So, Shalise, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, how did you learn you were autistic? How did this show up in your world?
I was diagnosed with severe autism when I was 2 years old. I was diagnosed. I did not speak until I was 5 years old. I was nonverbal. And throughout my childhood, elementary school, all the way until high school, I was in some form of special ed classes, whether it be, I was in middle school and I was in full special ed. But then as, I progressed into middle school, I started having only partial special ed classes and inclusion. But the biggest thing that, made me realize I was autistic was I got older in high school and I was being bullied a lot and being told I was different and no one wanted to be my friend. And, people just kind of excluded me. And I never could understand like why I was always, treated like I was different. And it made me realize, that maybe I am something is different about me. Maybe I am autistic. And, maybe because for the longest time I was in denial about being autistic because I got good grades in school, so I thought I can't be autistic because I'm getting good grades in school.
You're not
But
alone. So many people have been through that same thought process. Thank you for sharing
right,
that.
but then the social problems that I've had, the social anxieties, the social struggles that I've had, made me come to the painful realization. What hit me the hardest though was when I had a classmate who regularly targeted me. She actually outright said to me that she could tell something was different about me, and that's when it hit me.
You know what? I want to say that she was right. There is something different about you. You are
Yeah,
spectacularly different.
yeah,
And it is
spectacular.
such an incredible blessing. And I'm so glad you're different. I am. I couldn't imagine if you weren't you.
I know. And the thing is, I spent all this time thinking that being different was bad. And it made me obsessed with trying to find the good in being autistic. I was really obsessed with like trying to find the gifts, find out what my advantages were, just because I was getting all of these messages that somehow I was broken, I was wrong, I was defective, something like that. And so it just made me obsessed with like, okay, let me learn about what gifts we have, what advantages we have, what my talents are, what my special interests are. And so I became obsessed with
Oh,
like creating, you know, finding autistic people to network with and meeting people like me and actually starting a group in high school and in college for autistic people. It
oh
became
my
my
gosh.
obsession to
I
like
love
find out all the good things about us.
I love that. I think that that is probably just the most incredible way to have approached that feeling of that everybody on the external, like we all
Yeah.
got that, you know? And for those of us who are late identified, not knowing that we were autistic and getting those messages of there's something wrong with you, you're broken, you know,
Right.
something, you're weird. It and
Right.
not realizing that, you know, you can look for the positive. Man, that is outstanding. So if you had
Right.
to pick like from your list, because I know you got like a really good list, if you had to pick from your list of like, this is like the rockin' best thing about being me as an autistic person, this is it.
So, I was always told that I was weird for repeating myself about Russia and, being African American, a lot of kids thought that I was weird for wanting to learn Russian and being really obsessed with the country of Russia and all these, like Arctic countries and Antarctica. But you know what? I turned that around into something positive because guess what I learned about myself? Because
What?
of my special interest with maps and geography, I learned that I had a savant ability to tell where I am. When I'm on an airplane, I could fly over somewhere and be able to tell where I'm at
Oh, that is so
without looking
cool.
at the little like screen that they have.
You're better than Google. Like, come get in the car with me, please. That is so awesome. Oh my gosh, I
Like I could
love that.
fly. I've flown cross country, and I was able to always tell like where we were flying over just based on what it looked like.
Oh, that is
Looking
so
at
cool.
lands and like the rivers and just the geographical properties. And that interest, the fact that people thought that it was weird that I had such a deep interest like that, and that I took it as an advantage that I'm different. And I ended up taking Russian when I was in college, and I've ended up studying different things about the Arctic and Antarctica, like the nutrition out there in the Arctic countries. But it made me explore things that a lot of people don't think about, and it made me have something else to be well rounded about. And it
Oh,
also gives me a lot of conversation points too. Like it's different. It's something that most people don't think
totally. It's not. And that's what's so cool. I love that because every time you and I chat, every time we do something, there's always something fun that you share. And I love that about you. So when you started these groups in high school and in college,
about.
and when you brought these other autistic people together, did you ask them the same thing? Did you just like, hey, what do you think is super cool about you? I mean, did you help other people flip that script?
I did. Like, I actually made, like I was telling you earlier, I made a lot of friends with, a lot of autistic people, mostly males because a lot of girls, there wasn't a lot out there to diagnose women with autism. And so it was mostly guys I was, hanging out with and in the groups with. And I often ask them, I'm like, well, what is it about you that makes you stand out? What's different about you? What is this, special gift that you have? And many of them mentioned their personality, and they've told me too that like my inquisitiveness and my confidence has helped them to find their confidence.
Oh, that's one of the things that I think, like, our friend Maisie introduced us. And I think that was the thing that just, thank you, Maisie. Thank you, Maisie.
Thank you. I love Maggie.
But that, I do too. She's so amazing. But that
She's a
was
bar.
like one of the things when we first met, and it was in when we did that panel for her career pathways course. And I was just like, I like her. Like I was immediately drawn to you. You just have this incredible presence that is so welcoming. It's so open. And you are just like always so full. You have the best smile. You are always interesting and you connect with people so well. And I was just like, that's my person. And I was like immediately on Instagram, like tracking you down. And I was like, I couldn't find you for the
Oh, we
longest
have
time because I wasn't, I have spelling problems. So I didn't have, I wasn't spelling correctly when I was searching. And I was like, it kept the bane of my existence is Google autocorrect keyboard.
spelling actually was one of my gifts. Actually, like at the opposite thing with spelling.
Well, I can spell really well, but when it comes to Google,
Oh my god.
and if I ever have a typo for some reason, sometimes it accidentally saves it, and so then it comes up wrong all the time. So
It
then
does.
I have to figure out how to fix it.
That happened because like my phone has the autocorrect, and sometimes if I like make a typo, it still shows up as a typo, and I'm just like, why did you do that?
It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. So like I went two or three times and it kept coming and I was like, what the heck? I know that's what she told me. I know that's right. So finally I backtracked myself. I'm like, okay, I know she's on Facebook. So with Facebook that I found look, there's always more than one way to skin that cat.
Yeah, there is. There's always one more than one way. That's how we
That
have a
is
rule here, right?
know it. So, Shalese, tell me, like, you have this incredible passion for travel. Like, you have this beautiful adventurous spirit, which I so love. I so love it.
Yeah.
You are fearless. You are interested, and you want to go try new things and go to new places. And a lot of us, and that's one of the things that sometimes is misunderstood about people who are autistic, is they're like, oh, you're not adventurous. You don't like to do things that are out of your
Right.
routine. And I'm like, "Psh, my ADHD autistic brain is constantly seeking some new stimulation. I always want
Exactly.
to go travel and
Absolutely.
do stuff."
Yeah, like a lot of people don't expect that of me because they think of me as kind of, it goes back to that infantilization of people with autism.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people think that, I'm this kind of innocent, infantile, childlike person who doesn't travel. But it surprises them that I have traveled so much.
Oh, you have like an amazing travel portfolio. I cannot wait for you to
But
write your travel guide. It's going to be amazing.
my adventurous spirit, I gotta blame my dad for that. I blame him because see, I grew up in a military family where we moved around a lot, and
Oh,
so that
yeah.
also gave me the thirst to want to see the world. That gave me this like excitement to see and live in different places. And like even when we were sitting at home or whatever, my dad he always would make it a point to take us somewhere, even if it was the park or a movie or something like that. But we always knew we can count on dad to want to take us somewhere because he loves road trips and he also likes maps just like I do. Like every time we go on a family trip, we would get a map at the rest stops and just look at the map.
It is so fun. It is so fun. I love it. I'm a map girl. I love cartography, so I'm totally with you on that
I
one.
used to watch me some National Geographic and Discovery Channel, and I loved all the geographical shows that they had. And I even one year my parents gifted me some encyclopedias from National Geographic and the Geographic encyclopedias, and I would just sit and devour them every time I would go come home from school. I could not wait to come home so I can go home and just like devour those encyclopedias.
Oh my gosh.
So much so
I
that one
love
year
it.
I was so like I had a special interest for Hawaii one year, right? And I was so like obsessed with Hawaii. I actually went to the library at school and got some books on Hawaii. I tried to wear like the lei and the flowers, that they had. And I even got so into it that I created my own imaginary island. Like I got the paper, came up with the capital city and how much population it would have. And I just came out with that just because it was such a special interest of mine.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. That is
Every year
awesome.
I would have a new interest, like, a new geographical location as my special interest. That's kind of how I mark the memories of my life because, like, every year I think about what my interest was, what place I was obsessed with that year.
Oh man, that is so beautiful. I love that. And you make a really good point here because, sometimes it's like, you know, with everything that's happened in the last 2 years, travel wasn't necessarily the easiest thing in the world. And I think that's
Mhm.
one of the most beautiful things that, like, for me, I can travel anywhere in my own head. Like, that
Right.
is one of the things that I love. And like you, it was so funny when I think I was probably like in second or third grade, the World Book Encyclopedia salesman came knocking on my door because I'm 47, so that's back in the 80s, and he came to our house, and I remember when they started showing up because my parents bought them, and every time we got a new edition, we got a new volume, I would pour through it, and the pictures, they were full color. And I was looking at all the different places in the world. And that was one of the things I was drawn to was, all the different places that I could go. And I remember sitting there and there was this one particular place when I was reading, and it was about Sweden. And I just remember reading through it, and I just remember taking those pictures, and I would just visualize myself there, and was reading through all the different festivals and stuff. And it was just one of the most amazing things because even though I wasn't able to go there in person, I remembered like I traveled there in my mind, and it was such a great experience for me to be able to do that. I love it. And that you created your own island. Like seriously, we like that could be a kid's book. That would be so much fun.
Oh yeah, like that island. It was just like, yeah, I'm determined. I'm gonna create my own island, and I called it Land Palamak at the time. Yes, I
Ooh,
did. I still
I
remember the
love
name.
it. I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're gonna get
And
our hula skirts out. We're gonna go.
And it's just, when I read about like recently, I was looking at cruises to Antarctica, right? And I started seeing these different islands along the, Antarctic Peninsula.
Hmm.
And it's just really fascinating to me that people buy these islands and they just like name them and they create them and put the electricity and make them habitable. It's just like the idea of buying an island is just really fascinating to me.
Oh, totally. I remember reading a book about, you know, um, how to create your own country. You know, it had, I can't remember who the
Yeah,
guy was. He wrote a whole book about it. And it's
I
like,
think I've heard of that book actually.
yeah, and like you know, was like off the grid, and he'd figured out how to do the power with the solar and hydraulic and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Which the Isle of Egg in the Hebrides is the coolest place in the world. They have generated their own power. They're completely self-sufficient, and they're one of the only places in the whole world that's a destination place to go learn about alternative energy sources because they have hydraulic, wind, and solar, and they have taught all of the residents on the Isle of Egg, and it's EIGG, and they have the coolest Facebook group, and I'm a member
Oh,
of it because I'm so fascinated. I want to go so bad.
I think
And
so.
they switch, depending on the season, they switch between which type of solar or hydraulic or wind
Okay.
power. And
Mm.
all of the residents are trained to maintain all of the infrastructure, and they all take
Okay.
turns. It's all voluntary. It is super
See?
cool.
Oh my word.
See, we have a place we need to go visit now.
Now that's on my bucket list now. I gotta go.
It's totally on mine. Like I want to go to the Channel Islands and the Hebrides, and you know we've got some people in our group from Guernsey and a couple people from some of the other Channel Islands. I think we've got somebody from the Isle of Wight. It's so cool. I'm like I just want to like
Oh
go
my
on a whole
word.
tour and go visit everybody.
See?
It would be so
Man,
much fun.
so
Okay,
cool.
so Shalise, we got to get into the meat and potatoes of this episode for everybody. All right, so traveling can be exciting and it is so much fun. And just like sometimes just the preparation is the best part because you get really excited about it.
Yep.
Sometimes the reality of like when you get into a crowded airport, your flight gets canceled or delayed, and you know, they lose your baggage and all that stuff
Oh my
that
God.
normally people are just like, they're already stressed, but you try and tell an
Mm.
autistic person, and this happens to us, and it can just like
Mm.
completely short
Mm.
circuit your entire trip. So, what are some things that you've learned that really are a great way to help us travel with less stress?
So I have learned that when it comes to travel, honestly, me personally, planning the trip tends to be the most fun. I guess because the reality hasn't set in of all of that stressor that come on. But one of the things that I've learned is never, to always be flexible and, to get out of this mindset that everything has to be fixed and, at the exact same time. Travel has taught me to get out of that because it never happens in travel. You think your flight is going to leave at 10 and it's more than likely going to leave at 11 or more or later.
Yes.
So I've had to learn not to trust times, always be flexible, like always expect at least a 2 hour delay.
Yeah. So buffer some time in to
Yes.
arrive a little bit early and also
Never
make
trust time.
true. That is so true, especially with international travel. You know,
Yeah.
Shalise, maybe you've had this experience too. When I learned that things never work and go exactly as scheduled, like it is
Amen.
not a timetable like that. What I
Right.
found is when I let go of that and I just go with the flow and I'm just like, whatever it is, it's going to work out. The most amazing things happen.
Right.
Like stuff I could never have thought of or predicted.
Right.
Like I ended up on a train. We were late, had missed it. We were going from Rabat to Marrakesh. We were in Morocco. And we missed, you know, that first train. Something had happened. We got on it. We ended up sitting with a guy from the tourist industry for this for the country of Morocco. He started talking to us. We ended up with like the most incredible experience when we got to Marrakesh that we never would have had if we had not gotten on that particular train.
Oh my word.
So like seriously, stuff happened like that to you when you know when you're
Yeah,
just open to it.
exactly. Like one time I had missed a connecting flight, my original connecting flight. And so I had to take like a third leg to get to my final destination to Vancouver. And I ended up meeting a new friend
Oh, I love
that I
it.
later ended up dating.
Oh, even
Yeah.
better.
And so it's like that never would have happened if I was so fixated on, oh, it has to be this specific leg. Like I have to have this exact time for this.
So I love it. So the number one tip moving into traveling and getting ready for traveling in the holidays is that do not be so rigid or strict with your time. Go ahead and have set the expectation that
Yeah.
most things are not going to happen on time. And by being open to that, you're going to reduce your level of stress, right?
Absolutely. And I find too that I get really stressed out and have meltdowns if I'm attached to a specific time frame. But when I let that go, then I don't have stress when I let that go. Like I just have more, I'm more at ease as long
You
as I'm not
know,
attached.
that is a really so good. So good. Yes. It really is. Because like I'm like you, I was like, I hold the stress in my body and that results in
Right.
like this when it doesn't go to plan, it's just like meltdown city. And I'm just like
Mm.
freaking out. And it's just like
Yeah.
feeling like I have to make it all happen because if it doesn't happen at that time, you know, for some reason it used to be in the back of my mind like everything was going to fall apart if it didn't happen at that time. And I had to start trusting that it doesn't have to happen at a certain time. It's still all going to work out.
Right. And sometimes it works out for the better because I ended up, having that layover in Denver that I never would have had, and having the time of my life, and getting to knock one state off of my bucket list. And that,
Oh, that's awesome. And
yeah,
that Denver airport is big. Oh my gosh,
yeah,
it's big.
it's huge. And the setup of it is really interesting. The way it's like kind of a square setup.
It is. And you know what's really neat? The Denver airport has some of the most incredible art, and they actually have an art
Yeah.
gallery and a curator. It's very
Oh yeah.
cool.
I love the Denver airport.
You
And
know, and
it's
that's one of the things I never would have known or checked out if I hadn't have just been a little bit flexible and gotten out of my comfort zone and looked around. Like, that's a big thing. Like, just to
right.
stop and look around at where you are in your environment.
Oh, absolutely. Explore.
So, number one, you say be flexible with time. So, what would be your second tip on traveling for all of us?
So, this is gonna sound so petty or so trivial, but print things out. Like the boarding pass, your hotel accommodations, and the reason I say that is because, like, if you're on your phone and you're trying to look things up or try to get, your confirmation codes and whatnot, it can get stressful if the internet decides it does not want to work. So
Yes.
I find it helpful to print stuff out. So that way you can skip checkout lines and you can have the confirmation numbers and codes and stuff like that on you,
Yeah. Oh,
and
I
you don't have
love
to
it. That is so good. So I'm going to add to that one because not only do I print everything out, I also screenshot everything.
me too, just in
And
case
I
the internet.
say, yes, just in case I can't get on the internet, just in case something happens. And the
Right.
other thing is, I make sure that I save it all to my drive. So even if I can't, something happens to my phone, I can still go access it from someplace else. And I
Right.
make sure I've got my backup codes because, you know, if you're a Google user, they don't just let you in from another device.
And I got my laptop as well, which I know me, I tend to not be very good about keeping my phone charged, executive function. So that's why I print stuff out for that reason. Because I
Yes.
tend to think that my phone is charged enough and then it's not. So
Yes, that happens. Or you get in a delay somehow and you think you're going to have time to plug your phone in and you're at the
yeah.
airport and you know, not all airports have lots of plugs. And so then you and 300 other people are trying to charge their phone.
Amen. I've had that happen to me too.
Me too. I'm speaking from experience.
Oh,
And you're like, oh, I'm at 1%. Can I just bump in here for a second? And it's like, it is like the highest cost real estate. And if somebody has staked it out, and it's usually like the person that is playing on their phone while they're charging it, and they're not like going to charge it just enough to let somebody else also charge theirs. Oh no, we're going to charge it till it's 100%.
yeah, that's like, come on now. You don't see this line.
So, you know, one of the best things that I purchased to have like, and I want to know what your thoughts are for like
Ooh,
travel accessories. One of the things
yeah.
I purchased and I keep charged, I have two of them, are
Mhm.
backup battery packs to charge my phone. Like I even have this cool, it's like a little zip pocket purse and it's got one of the batteries in it and I charge it completely and it's got not just a USB cord, it also has the Apple cord. So if you know somebody else needs one, I can be a kind person and be a good helper and let somebody charge their phone. But having one of those backup battery packs that you can charge your phone on was a great accessory. What are some accessories that you like to use and travel with?
Oh, me? I actually have a wireless charger that, I, make sure that that's charged up before I go on the road just in case the outlets are taken up. And so I keep that. fully loaded. So in case I want to charge my phone, I'll like put it on the wireless charger and it charges that way. And another thing that I love to travel with is of course I gotta have my water bottle with me. I always have my water. And I always have my packs of tuna fish with me in case I don't want to eat airport food.
Oh, that's a really good one.
And
I'm the same
food
way.
and
I
travel
travel
is a
with my
big
own
thing.
snacks.
Yes, I have to have my own snacks because I don't like the airport selections, and not to
And it's
mention
always so expensive.
they're exorbitant. So
Oh,
like I go to Walmart or Target and I get my tuna packs for $1.
okay. So I learned the hard way one time. Went to the airport. Of course, I had my little snacks and all my stuff. And because some of it wasn't exactly up to TSA codes, I had to throw it away.
Mm. Was it liquid items?
Um, well, yeah, one was like a small drink and it was sealed, but it was too big. It was over, I think
Oh
it was
yeah.
over 16 ounces or something like that. And they
Let me
only sell those small sizes at the
yeah.
airport for like $6 a bottle.
You know what I learned? Something interesting that I have experienced myself is like if you make your home cooked meals, if you decide you want to make your own home cooked meals just to have that, level of comfort, something to
Yeah.
eat, you can actually take dry food, things like vegetables or um chicken or meat or whatever. You can actually take food with you from the TSA, but they won't let you take liquids. Like
Okay.
even if it's sealed, like they don't like you to bring outside liquids because
Right.
yeah,
So do you get like those little flat packs of the tuna where you can just rip the
yeah,
top? Okay,
that's
because they're flat too, because you can pack them
yeah.
in.
I don't get the cans just because I don't want to have to carry around a can opener. Plus, I don't even know if that's allowed. But the little packs are easy. Get your spoon and then you just eat out of it, or you pour it over a salad or something, and they're just easy.
I love it. Oh, that is really good. So pack your own snacks, get your accessories like your wireless or your battery pack charger. Make sure you've got those things. Have stuff printed out. So what would be
Yeah.
your next tip? Like something that you were like, okay, as an autistic person, this has probably made the biggest difference in my life.
So always have someone that you can tell that you're traveling with. You know, be it a close friend, a family member, someone that you trust. Always tell them your whereabouts, your itinerary, and you know, keep them updated throughout the trip as well. Like
Mm.
that's something that has helped me out a lot because knowing that I have that support system, helps me in the event that something does go awry.
I
'Cause
think that was like one of the things I was thinking about. And I know that you probably have some insights into this. So,
right,
traveling as a single female can be a little scary. I mean, I've come into some situations where I'm just like, ooh, I kind of feel a little bit uncomfortable and out on my own on this one. And,
yeah,
really having to be aware of your surroundings. And that's not
absolutely.
something I do very easily sometimes. I had to learn to become aware and to look
Me
for certain
too.
things. Yeah, so what are some
Yeah.
suggestions? How have you found like a really good way to feel safe and to stay safe when you're traveling by yourself?
You know what? First of all, like this seems obvious to some people, but I don't like to go out by myself at night
Yeah,
unless, it's a public or, there's a crowd. Like the only time I like to be in crowds, because I hate crowds,
yeah,
is if I happen to be out at night. That's the only time I don't mind crowds because then I feel safer in that situation.
yeah.
Other than that, I try to do my solo activities during the day. And I've actually, because I'm by myself a lot and I do solo traveling, it actually got me in touch with my intuition, me keeping in touch with who I am and knowing when I don't feel comfortable around something. Like I've actually had more of an opportunity to learn how I feel when something is uncomfortable. And I trust
Oh,
that feeling.
that's huge. Yes, that's huge.
Like
Huge.
anytime I get that feeling, I don't question it. I just trust it and move accordingly.
Thank you. That was one, and that's a really big part of sort of the reclamation of ourselves for those of us who are late identified, is that
Yeah.
we have suppressed and pushed down and not trusted our own tuition because we've begun
Hmm.
to doubt it because other people are like, well, why'd you do that? And you're like, well, because I felt that way, and that's how and they're like, no, that's wrong. But
Hmm.
really, what we start to do is start to feel like, I don't know about you, but it's like I was in Paris by myself. this is like when they had first opened the channel. Man, I am so dating myself. I am really dating myself. They had just opened the Eurostar, and I was living in London going to school that summer. And I got a ticket, and I was so excited.
Mm,
Well, I didn't really know anybody that had gone with me to do the semester abroad. So I went by myself. Now, I was meeting some of my friends that, lived in Europe afterward, but I had to go to Paris by myself. I couldn't get through to get, this is back before cell phones and all the good, easy internet stuff, guys, okay? So I'm like, I was in analog time. So I had to call to make hotel reservations and things, and I couldn't get through to anybody. And the hotels that I did get to, they were completely booked. So I just took a leap of faith and I said, I'm going to get on the train. I'm going to get on the channel on the Eurostar and I'm going to go by myself. And I'm just going to show up in the Gare du Nord, which is, the North train station. And that's where it comes into Paris. And I'm just going to find a hotel. And it was starting to get dark, but it was summer. So it was like 8:30, 9 o'clock, but there was still a little bit of light. And I just happened upon, I went to the first one and it didn't feel right, and I walked into the second one and it was like the desk clerk was really nice. It was a really felt really good. I ended up in the coolest room. It was like at the
mm,
top of the stairs. It was tiny, like a little attic room. But when I looked out, it was like this round, like typical, like round window that you see in some of those Parisian movies and things. I opened it and looked out, and I had a view of the Eiffel Tower and the Champs Elysees. I was like,
oh, Lord.
holy cow. And I
Ooh.
promised my mom that I would call to let her know I was safe, right? Because we do those check-in things when we're by ourselves. And
Mm,
I picked up the room phone and I couldn't dial out and I kept trying. I couldn't get it. I was kind of getting a little frustrated and scared because I was like, I just want to tell my mom I'm okay because she's probably freaking out. And so I couldn't do it. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to get upset. I'm just going to put it down and I'm just going to go to sleep and it'll all be okay in the morning. I woke up in the morning and I'm like, I bet I have to tell the desk clerk I'm going to make an international call. That was
mm,
the problem because
mm,
they had to like allow it. So the next
mm,
morning I was like, cool. And I ended up going into the main city center, and I had like my thing printed out of all the places I was going to go. And I ended up meeting a group of grad students on the Champs Elysees at a cafe because I was sitting there having lunch and they walked by and I heard them and I was like, hey, you guys, are here visiting too. And they were from the States, like Indiana. And we started talking like, yeah, we're here on a grad trip and blah, blah, blah. So
mm.
I was like you, I wasn't going to go out at night.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, so we set a time and a place for us to meet where I could get together with them, and then that way I could do something at night. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. But I never would have gone by myself at night, number one. And number two, I had to really start paying attention to like when my gut told me something's hinky, you know? What
Mm,
was interesting is that first hotel that I went into that didn't feel quite right, and I went to the next one,
mm,
it was interesting because that night when I met up with that group, they had said somebody from their group had stayed there and had a really bad experience.
mm.
And I'm like, oh, really? I
Mm.
almost stayed there. They're like, ooh, be glad you didn't stay there. It was not good.
Oh my word.
So I was like,
Mm.
see, I didn't, I trusted my gut somehow, but I wasn't aware of trusting my gut. So trusting your gut when you're traveling
Right.
is real important. Like, okay, so do you feel it in your body? Like, I feel it in my body. It's like tingly and feels
Mm,
really uncomfortable. It's like spidey sense.
yeah.
I didn't
Like
know
for
that's
me,
what it was.
I actually, believe I didn't think that me and as an autistic person had a good sense of intuition until I finally put two and two together one day. Like I realized that whenever a situation is bad for me, I start feeling a heightened sense of anxiety and I feel closer to a meltdown. And it's one of those situations where it's like, why do I feel like I want to have a meltdown? Like when things seem like they're perfect. And anytime I feel overwhelmed and have sensory overload and feel close to a meltdown, that's my spider senses telling me that that's not a good situation. Or, that person is dangerous or something like that.
Oh my gosh, Shalise, I think you probably just had somebody go, oh my gosh, I didn't recognize that, or I just connected the dot on that. That's a good one. Thank you.
Like whenever, you feel yourself, triggered for what seems like no reason, pay attention to that.
Ooh, that's a good tip. That's a really good tip. So, what would you say would be like your final, like, big tip? Like, this is the one thing that I want every autistic person traveling to know that most people don't think about.
You know what? This is the thing that a lot of us don't think about when it comes to, travel and autism, and that is that other people, just because they don't see us as autistic, it's totally okay to ask for help, or it's totally okay to, you know, don't be ashamed to ever ask for assistance. Or if you are on a flight and telling the flight attendant, hey, I'm autistic and I need this accommodation, like, don't be ashamed to do that. Because a lot of times people with autism, we think that we're a burden when we're asking for help or we're asking for an accommodation. But don't, like, because these people, like the flight attendants, the hotel staff, these people, they're taking your dollars too. Like, you're paying them as well. They're doing business with you. So you have a right to be comfortable where you at, wherever you're staying at,
Oh,
wherever you're flying, or whatever restaurant you're eating. So speak out. If you need an accommodation, if you need, anything, any type of help, don't be afraid to speak out. It's your money.
Shalese. Oh my gosh, that is so good. That's one I've really just started learning. So, what are some accommodations like for flights and hotels and restaurants when you're traveling that you have found are available that you ask for or that we could ask for?
I recently, ever since the pandemic hit, I noticed that and Marriott, they just started doing this too, but I first noticed Hilton was doing the digital check-in, where you would book your room, you would choose your room, even, put your credit card information in, check in, and then they'll send you the digital key so you can skip the process of going to the desk altogether. I find that
Nice.
after a long flight, I don't always feel like interacting with human beings. And I don't want to stand in line because I get anxious sometimes standing in line and waiting. And so that eliminates that for me. Like, that self check in is such a godsend. And I hope they keep that.
Me
And
too.
I noticed Marriott just started doing that too. Thank God, it's about time they did it.
That is awesome. So, what are some accommodations that airlines have?
Airlines, so far from what I'm seeing, airlines, you could, I guess, request, certain snacks,
Hmm.
or you could request, how do I say this? I think you could request to sit in a seat where it's less noisy, like a seat where it's away from more of the sound in the airplane. You could
Yeah.
probably request to do that, which I find that helpful personally. And most of the time, unfortunately, with flights, because it's not a lot that I see them doing with accommodations, I think that a lot of it has to do with self accommodation,
Ah,
like bringing your
good
own
one.
headphones to
Yeah.
cancel noise,
Yeah.
and bringing your own, like, stimulation toys.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
even, I also like the fact that when they read the directions, about what to do in an emergency, that they have it actually written on a screen too, just in case you needed to see it rather than listen to it. So
Yes.
I like the fact that they have that option too.
I love that. Those are such great tips. And so, one of the things that Shalise and I are planning is for the spring, guys, we're going to do a special travel segment and we're going to talk about some of those financial things because Shalise has
Yeah,
got some amazing insights and tips on how to save, how to plan, how to budget, and how to
yeah,
craft so that you can travel. Because that's a
yeah,
big one. So many of us have these dreams and we want to travel, but we don't know how to make it
absolutely.
happen.
And this is a big one for us too. And this is something, me personally, I find this a big deal because, okay, like autistic people, a lot of us, unfortunately, statistically speaking, they say that 85% of us are unemployed or underemployed,
Yeah.
which does not make it easy to afford to travel.
Yep.
And so that is why I do talk a lot about creative ways to save, or, creative ways to earn money for travel.
Well, I'm all for it because I'm one of those on a really tight budget. So, and I love to travel. So I cannot wait to do this with you. So, Shalise, as
Oh,
we're wrapping up, my big question at the end is always, what is one thing that you would like to share with the autistic person next to you that's just joined our community? What would you like them to know about their journey as they begin?
first of all, the most important thing that I think that they should know on their journey is, at first you're going to be probably afraid, and you're probably, seeking acceptance, and you're probably worried that, people aren't going to accept me, and do I have to pretend to be something that I'm not in order to get friends and be accepted? But I'm here to tell you that you don't have to do any of that. Like, anybody who does not accept you and who does not welcome you, that's a clue that they're not the people for you. Your people will accept you for who you are. You don't have to bend, you don't have to, hide or mask or hide your autism. As a matter of fact, whenever I meet people, a good test to see if they belong in my life is if I tell them I'm autistic. And if they go running for the hills, that's just a sign that they don't need to be in my life. If they stick around, yeah, those are my people.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
So
And
we'll get into
absolutely, that's what I call self-pruning. And
that.
I
No,
love that. I'm okay. I was like, not everybody has to like me. I'm okay with that.
that's what I did
I'm,
when I was dating. Like, actually, when I was in college, I was trying to date. I would do that with guys. I would use that as a determining factor as to who it was worth me dating.
wow, I like it. I like it. So there's a hot dating tip out there too, guys. And, just a little hint, that might be something she and I'll be talking about too.
Yeah.
Because she's got some cool stuff in the works. Shalese Heard, thank you for being here. You are truly the autistic travel goddess. For you to connect and get more of these amazing things, some tips, some great pictures, because oh my gosh, she does incredible reviews. She shares some of the best things that she finds on her travels. Guys, she's on Instagram, she's on Facebook, she's got all kinds of stuff, and I'm going to have them in the show notes below. If you love to travel, if you just want to travel in your mind and experience these beautiful places, go connect with Shalese. She is totally your person.
Thank you for having me, Carole.
Oh, it has been my pleasure, and we are going to be doing this again for sure. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank
Guys,
you.
tune in next week. I'm going to have more of like a short little graphic put together so it kind of gives you some of these travel tips from Shalese. It'll be a little bit easier and you can use it kind of like a checklist for your traveling for the holidays. So we'll be sure to have that in the show notes below as well for you to connect with because I always like to try and share a little something from our guest. And so those will be there for you. Be sure you have a really fun time. Remember that timetables are not always precise. Make sure you take those backup things, take your snacks, make sure you've got your stuff with you, like your STEM tools. Make sure you've got your stuffy or something that makes you feel comfortable and helps ground you in the process. And be sure that as you're going, trust your gut. Because sometimes when you feel that twinge, there's a reason and you can trust it.
Right.
Thank you so much for being here, Shalese. Guys, we'll see you next week. Bye bye. If you are someone who likes to help people and share what has made a difference in your life, please share this talk show with a friend and on your social media accounts so that you can be the blessing in another late identified autistic's life. Be sure to tag me at Social Autie so I can personally say thank you. And to help keep the talk show ad-free, please consider becoming a one-time or recurring supporter through either Buy Me a Coffee or the Anchor podcast links in the show notes below. I truly appreciate your support. Thank you for being a listener, and thank you for adding your voice to our story.